What was your meet cute moment? You know, the one where you have the amusing or charming first encounter with the beautiful person you are destined to begin a romantic relationship with and proceed to live happily ever after, where every experience is romantic and moonlit conversations are the norm, and you share your biggest fears as well as your hopes and dreams, where the rain falls and your beautiful person realizes that they can't do life without you, and they profess their love while your makeup and hair stay perfectly perfect.
Okay, Amy, let's remove those rose-colored glasses for a second and turn off the Hallmark movie channel because we're jumping right in because we're going to talk about dating your mate, and we can't wait to introduce you to our special guest for today's sixth episode. But before we do that,
thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Midlife at the Mailbox. Whether you're checking out our conversation for the first time or you have listened to every episode, we appreciate you being here. I'm Amy Alexander, and sitting 2,000 miles away from me is Denise Rabat. Over 6 years ago, during a chance meeting at our neighborhood mailbox, two strangers met and a new friendship blossomed into something bigger.
although we no longer share a mailbox and have many miles between us, we're closer than ever in real life. This chance meeting at our neighborhood mailbox inspired a friendship, business relationship, and now a podcast. So come along and listen in. Amy and I chat about midlife moments, business, family, and a whole lot more. It's our hope that after our conversation ends, you have connected with a bit of wisdom shared between two great friends and hopefully got entertained along the way.
And maybe, just maybe, we may provide you with the push or insight you need to follow your heart, just as we have with this podcast. We welcome you to episode 6, Dating Your Mate. So in true midlife fashion, we start our show off by discussing kind of something midlife momenty that has happened over the course of the past couple of weeks since we last recorded. Denise, do you want to update on your trip? You were going to Hawaii or something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's summer season here in Southern California, just like everywhere. One thing that we love in the summer, actually, this is like a joint moment with our guests that'll soon be announced. My husband and I have a boat, and we usually love to take it out on the weekends when it's nice weather. So yesterday, we invited about 9 of my friends as a thank you for helping me all year with the PTA to come out in our boat. So it was 8 girlfriends, myself, and Chris. And, normally we plan these cruises around, mid-afternoon, so we could be done by 5 or 6, an adult by the evening. But yesterday, Chris and Denise of the 20s and 30s, potentially, we were out till 9 o'clock at night. And, today is a lot slower day. The adulting didn't start till about 9 a.m. today. And it was, Chris much earlier. But it's been a struggle and reminded us that the Chris and Denise of the 40s is not the Chris and Denise of the 20s and 30s. But we had a lot of fun doing it. So that's our midlife moment.
I actually feel fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
So in the background, I hear a different voice. Do you want to introduce part of our guests?
Yes, I'm very excited to have with us today my husband, Chris Rabat. We've been married 17 years, and he is my best friend and co-parent and everything else together. So he's joining us today along with, who's on the other side of the Zoom?
My husband, Mike Alexander, has joined us as well to chat about how we date. Mike and I have a long history together, which we'll tell you about in a little bit. But we're super excited to have our men in our life on the show with us and can't wait to dive in a little bit to our story. But I wanted to share, kind of to piggyback, Denise, on what you were talking about in terms of, starting off your Monday. So we're recording this on a Monday night, starting off your Monday, after your long weekend. We literally had 0 things on our calendar this entire weekend, except for a birthday party for my son's friend on Sunday afternoon. But otherwise, Saturday, the calendar was totally blank. and the weather ended up being really crappy. So we decided, oh, let's like go see a movie. We were out late on Friday. So Saturday we like slept in, and by the time we got going, did the movie, went to dinner, I like looked at the clock on our way home from the restaurant. It was 8:45, and I was like, oh my God, like when did it get to be so late? This like whole day just like flashed before our eyes. So we just it turned out to be a very, very busy weekend, even though we had nothing going on, which is in true Alexander fashion. So but your boat day sounded really fun. And I think maybe Chris was a little inspired by our family trip that one day to Wisconsin.
A lot inspired. Yeah, I told somebody yesterday actually on the boat that, you remember I said this? Mm-hmm. I said the best day that I had in, the Midwest when we lived there was the day we went on the lake with Amy and Mike, right? In their boat on Lake Geneva. And like that stuck in my mind. So when we came back, the idea of buying a boat's like, oh, well, it's going to be awesome. So I think you guys really launched us into this, to be honest.
Aww.
No pun intended with the boat launch.
Yes, no pun intended.
Well, we're so happy you did not send us the bill, and hopefully one of these days when we get out to LA, we can see the boat that we inspired.
Yeah, for sure.
The Blue Escape. You can come with us.
The Blue Escape. We love it. We love it. Well, yeah. So we've got our two very handsome guests with us, Mike and Chris. And, we kind of wanted to jump right in and talk about, our story of how we met, how we got together, kind of gives you a little bit more of an authentic feel to who we are as women and, kind of how we got to where we are with our spouses. So Denise and Chris, do you want to kind of share your story?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris and I started dating when we were finishing up undergrad. It was back in, I was going to UCLA. Chris was going to Cal Poly Pomona. And we met through some mutual friends. We'd met a couple of years past, but, it wasn't like we had seen each other on a normal basis. And then fast forward to both of our senior years of college, we met and through some mutual friends, and it was just an instant connection. We went out and we had a really good time, and, talk about a meet cute moment. We were out late, that was Denise in her 20s and Chris in his 20s. And we were out and we were coming home, and I drove home from the club we were at. And
a club.
Yeah, it was almost 2 a.m. and I was hungry and Chris was hungry. And we were like, oh, let's stop at In-N-Out Burger in Westwood. And so we drive through the drive-thru, but if anyone knows, In-N-Out Burger closes right before 2. And so, we drove through the drive-thru and they're like, sorry, we're closed.
But what was I saying the whole time?
Don't go at all.
So don't go. They're closed. Why would you go? Like, because I follow rules, right? And I'm like, they're closed, so don't go. Like, what are you doing? And Denise is like, oh, that's just, let's see what happens.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. Just let them tell you no. So we drove through the drive-thru and, it's closed, the window there in California. There, these windows that you can go through the drive-thru and it's closed. And I see people working there. They're closing and cleaning. And I just kind of tried to get their attention with my arms, waving them. And I said, hey, can we get some food? And they're like, sorry, we're closed. I'm like, please, I'm so hungry. All I want is some In-N-Out Burger fries. And the guy goes, okay. And he opened it up, gave us the fries for free, and we drove off.
Unbelievable.
So
persistence.
Persistence. That's who you married, a very persistent woman.
Yeah, I was very impressed and embarrassed at the same time. But I didn't eat some of the fries.
But that meet cute moment launched a 22-year relationship, 2 children, nearly 17 years of marriage. So anyway, that's a little bit about us.
I love it. I love it. Love it. So Chris, I'm going to throw you a little curveball. Mm-hmm. What over the 17 years married and 22 years together, what is one way that over the years you've initiated dating Denise?
Initiated. Well, I think what we try to do usually is, outside of going on trips, which, we do as well, but outside of that, things can get pretty monotonous, right? you go through the motions, you kind of like have a roommate almost. And to get out of that, you really have to plan something ahead of time, right? And make it happen. And it can't, for me, it can't just be like, let's go to dinner, right? I mean, that's fine, but that's not going to do it for me. Like, I want to go out, right? So I would rather eat dinner at home and then go out to a club or a bar or something and have fun. We can Uber back and do what we used to do when we were in our 20s, because there's no reason why we can't have that kind of fun still. And that's really, what I try to make happen for us.
Yeah, we did that recently for my birthday, actually. He asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said, I don't know. I just didn't have anything specific in mind. I said, you know what? I really want to go to the Garth Brooks concert. It was in San Diego. That was the only place he was going to play on the West Coast this year. So Chris, he got the tickets and we went, and it was just one night in San Diego. We're very lucky. We have grandparents, our children's grandparents who are pretty generous with their time. And if they can, they will babysit our children. And so they did. And so we were able to go, and it was a really fun trip, and it was just a good night out. And Chris was a good sport. He doesn't necessarily love country, but we went and we both had a good time. So, it was fun. It was different. It was a good birthday gift because we could spend time with each other. It was 24 hours.
Right.
I love it.
So that's a good example.
Love it. Okay. When you guys are going to the club, I need to can you paint me like a mental picture? Like, is Chris wearing like leather and studs? Like, what is he? I don't know. Does he have like his hair spiked up? Like, what's the look?
It automatically spikes up. I don't even have to spike it. As soon as I walk in, it just spikes up. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I spike my hair. I wear, skinny jeans like you do in LA. And I'll wear like, a tighter-ish, button down short sleeve shirt or something, and a leather jacket. That's usually my MO.
There you go, leather. Just no stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, leather jacket. Tasteful. And yeah, I think that's my going out kind of attire. And Denise will wear like a dress or a skirt and a top or something like that. And then, I think I don't feel out of place. Like, a lot of people say like, well, you're in your 40s. Like, how are you going to like a club or a bar or whatever? And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm 40. I feel like I'm 25 and my brain has not changed. So I'm not going to change. And, people stare at us sometimes, but most of the time they don't. Most of the time we blend in just fine.
I love when we befriend the 20-year-olds, like in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like, we went to Vegas, right? And it was just after like the first COVID wave. And we got a bottle service at a pool party because we like to go to the pools. We don't like to go to the clubs in Vegas. It's more.
Well, now we have to party in the day because we're midlife now. You can't party at night.
Right. So we go to the pool, and Denise makes friends with like 10 girls, right? And they're all like sitting around her, like, making sure she's happy because they know that she'll kick them out in 2 seconds if they mess up. So they're all getting free drinks. So like, and then they're like asking her for like life advice. What should I do with this boyfriend? This guy treated me this way. What should I do? And Denise is like,
our podcast.
I don't know what she was saying, but somehow she got COVID during that trip and I didn't. And I suspect it was from some of those girls that she was sitting with.
Anyway. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. That's one way.
So it's like going out in your 20s. You just have better drinks now.
Better drinks. Exactly.
More power, more control.
Yeah. I can pay for the things that I want now instead of begging.
Yeah.
You can go top shelf instead of well.
Exactly.
I also don't feel like I'm in my, I'm only 40, but I also don't feel like I'm in that decade. I still feel like I was just working on some stuff for work, and I was typing something up, and it was like, I don't know. What did I say? It was like, oh, I still feel like I need like a summer vacation, like we did when we were in school. Like, I still feel like summer is a time for no school and no work. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm still this young person that's like in school, and that's like what you do. But I do you feel like you're in your 40s?
Sometimes. when stuff starts hurting, but usually no.
But we go out. We'll have a good time. We were never club people. So maybe Mike in his late teens was a clubber before we started dating.
I was a club person before I was legally allowed to be a club.
You know what happened to me is that when the time came to like go to clubs and stuff, like I didn't really do that much, right? I did it sometimes, and I didn't really like have the money to do it the right way and things like that. So then when I got into my 30s, really late 30s, I started to want to go more. So that's when Denise and I started doing this.
But the crazy thing, and this is totally midlife, is that I was always this go, wanting to be out all the time, like from like 20s to like probably mid 30s, like early 40s. But then I started to slow down, and then he ramped up. So that's true midlife. I did way too much of it probably. And then, but anyway, enough about us. I heard younger years. So what's your backstory, Amy and Mike? You have a great one too.
So our story does start out many, many years ago. So we've been together since 1998. I was still in high school. Mike had just graduated. So all together, we've been together 24 years. And we met while we were working at our meet cute moment. Not very meet or cute was when we met working at an ice skating rink. And Mike worked in the pro shop, and I did like the birthday parties and the skate rental. And it really wasn't, I wouldn't even say it was like love at first sight. It was more like, oh, we wanted to go see a movie, and, we both were interested to go see this like ridiculous horror movie. So we like agreed as like friends to go see this movie, and in the middle of it, Mike paid for the movie, right?
As you do.
17-year-old Mike paid for the movie to go to a theater that no longer exists anymore. Talk about like that, is weird when things no longer, that you're old enough for things not to exist in their, current place. And when the movie was supposed to get scary, he like put his arm around me. And then when it was over, he did ask me to go get some food. And we went for like it was like in August. So we went for like an earlier movie, and then the movie got done and it was still sunlight out. And he was like, you want to go get some food? I'm like, I'm not really hungry, because in my mind, it wasn't like a date. It was literally two friends. And the fact that he like put his arm around me and paid for me, I was like so naive. And Mike ended up going out with some other girl like later that night.
It dropped you off and went out with her.
Oh my God, that was
this is a fun twist.
Interesting twist. Yeah. I didn't expect.
But because like, in 1998, what we did was talk on the phone. And so for days after that, all we did was talk on the phone into like the wee early hours of the morning. I don't know what we talked about, but that was what we did. And then finally a week later, we were out to dinner with some friends at TGI Fridays, again, that no longer exists. And Mike, the one that we went to does not exist anymore. Aww. And Mike was driving me home, and I, turned to him and I said, so like, what's happening? I'm like, are we going out? All we've done for the past week is talk to each other since we went to this movie. And he's like, well, I guess we could give it a try. So I always joke that like after, we've been together 24 years and married 12, that we're still
giving it a try.
And that is our love story. Oh, you're me cute.
Our me cute.
Well, now, Mike, I'm going to turn the tables on to you for your question. What's one way that you've initiated dating, Amy, over the years?
The way we date, we do love to travel, but the way we date is with our crazy busy lives is that when Caleb, our kid, is in school and we're home, and, the last couple of years of COVID, working from home has actually made it a lot easier to do this, is once he's off to school or wherever his activity, we'll go out and get breakfast, or we'll get Starbucks, or lately we've been going on like very long walks, like couple mile walk. And we talk about whatever it is we talk about. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's nonsense, but then we get back and that's how we stay together and we go about our day.
So we date.
We date.
Yeah, that's it. What are you making it work, right? It's just that, connection time together. So
exactly.
That's cute.
I was going to say, we tend to use our, if we do go out at night, it tends to be more with like other couples. And so then like our parents are fabulous. Well, they'll step in and Caleb will sleep over. But I would say typically our more of our dates are going to be our day dates.
Yeah.
And they're like more impromptu. So it's like, you don't have a busy morning. I don't have a busy morning. Like, let's go, let's go. And
yeah, you're both solopreneurs, right?
Yeah,
well, Mike
exactly.
has a couple of team members, right? In his line of work.
For now.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, you guys. And to the viewers out there, by no means are we relationship experts here. We're not feigning to be that. However, it's just a topic we're interested in, and we wanted to, want to put more effort into this year as we continue to evolve into midlife. And often during our shows, we've made reference to spending time with our husbands. So we thought, this would be a nice summer topic. So
exactly.
And like with that, there's a ton of relationship theories out there, models. There's love languages, which people have probably heard about, or your personality types. The Gottman Research Clinic or the Gottman Relationship Quizzes are world famous for all their marriage and relationship research. But I learned a new one recently. It's called The 5 A's of Relationships by Diane Iacovelli. And they are acceptance, appreciation, attention, affection, and adoration. And I haven't read the book yet, but I want to. I just learned about it today, but I thought it was super timely, so I wanted to share it here. Because this book explores what emotional needs are and what it means to be and feel loved and valued by, the significant people in your lives. Because really, dating or, can be a lot of times finding out which A, in quotation marks, is important to your significant other. So you can continue to understand each other as we evolve, right? I mean, I'm sure the Amy and Mike, and I know the Denise and Chris of, the early 2000s is different than the Denise and Chris and Amy and Mike of the 2020s, right? So how do you keep that, we're looking for that Zen, right? Trying to keep that going. So
well, and I think just like you guys, but we've, been together through multiple decades and multiple, I wouldn't necessarily say not personality changes, but, various different types of growth cycles within our own life. Right. So we started dating as teens, and then we were together through college and then post-college, and trying to figure out who we are, out in the world. And then we have, a family, and now you have aging parents and grandparents and, all of the pieces that, come into making a life together. So you do have to kind of evolve and continue to, grow. But the things that, fuel you and your relationship, I don't think that necessarily has totally changed.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah. What do you think?
What do I think about what?
Just about.
Yeah, no, I think I like what Amy said. I think that they're unique in that they've gone through more life stages together than we have, right? Because we've done the college thing and then the post-college thing and then, the family thing and then aging parents, but we didn't have the teen thing, right? And that transition is different. Right. I can only imagine what you were like as a teen and whether or not that would have worked. Like, I don't know. I haven't heard good things about you as a teen from your mom and dad. So
I guess that's next up is
I think Mike saved me as a teen.
Or if Amy knew me as an earlier teen, that might not have worked.
Mike in his prior to his junior year had a long pony. I mean, think of 90s, to our listeners. So the hairstyle, he had long hair. He wore it in a ponytail, slicked back. I definitely helped change his clothing. I took him from, oversized vests, what you used to wear, to Abercrombie.
Late 90s people wore Jenkos, and that's just the kind of things that you wore.
That's right.
Did you wear Jenkos?
Oh my gosh. I always say when my parents were obsessed with the 60s and 70s when I was growing up. Now we're all obsessed with the 90s, right? Late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
I think every podcast we've talked about something. Maverick, this fashion now, the Steve Madden chunks.
Something. Wait, but talk about Steve Madden. So my mom actually gave me some photo albums the other day, and I was looking through, And it was like my last year of high school. And I was like looking at my clothing, and literally every freaking picture that I was in, I was wearing I think they were Silver brand overalls. Every picture, like I rotated like 3 outfits. My blue jean overalls. I had these like chunky white shoes. I didn't see the black shoes that we talked about in earlier episodes. So that must have been previous to 1998 or 1999, 2000. But yeah, it was really funny, like seeing my hair, like just no flat iron, like wide. Anyways, okay, I digress about our topic, but it was very funny.
Yeah, and this year, I think something the rest of this year, for the remainder of this year, something that I wanted to commit to is kind of reinvigorating some of those dating efforts of the past that we were doing, with COVID and the last couple of years. And then the last year I had a volunteer leadership role in the PTA, which sucked up so much time that I really, something suffered in our dating efforts. And so I've, recommitted to, reinvigorating this area of my life. So with that, I think we should go around the podcast, right? Let's, think about those 5 A's. Chris, which A resonates with you? Appreciation, affection, adoration.
So, I thought I would make this interesting and maybe more interesting and ask you which one you think I'll choose, because I already wrote it down. So I wrote down my choice, and I want to see
like the newlywed game.
This is like a political debate.
Which A do you think I would choose? I just want to see if you'll get it right.
I think you would choose appreciation.
Boom! That is newlywed game. Yeah, I think appreciation is super important to me, and that's not always the case for everyone, but for me, that makes me feel loved. That makes me feel like what I'm doing is working, right? Because I work hard, you work hard, we all work hard, right? But what I'm bringing to the table is appreciated by everybody. It makes it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've known that about him, over the maybe in the last 10 years. So I've tried to weave that in as much as possible to like our communication.
Yeah, but I also love adoration. I mean, don't get me wrong. Who doesn't like to be adored? But you
don't love attention.
But that's not my primary. No, attention is not mine.
But I'm in his room. Hey, what are you doing in his office? He's like, I'm working.
Well, when you interrupt somebody when they're really deep in thought and working, it takes 20 minutes to get back there again, right?
Yes.
Denise will walk in every 20 minutes and ask me how I'm doing, so I get nothing done.
That sounds very familiar. But since my office is a couple floors up, we live in a 4-story townhome, I'll get a text message. Hey, what do you want to do for lunch? Did you do this? I am in the middle of something. And it takes 20 minutes to get back.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, it sounds like
the love they give us.
Let's ask Mike. Mike, what A resonates with you?
What do you think?
I was going to say affection.
Affection's important, but
I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Yes, appreciation would be on my list as my big A.
Oh, I don't always. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even technically a first generation immigrant because I came here when I was 9 years old. So I wasn't even born in this country. And so me appreciating what I have and have built in our life, I'd like to see some appreciation from my family and friends of stuff that I've done, do for them, do for myself, do for others. And starting really poor in this country and then not knowing the language and then coming here and building what I've done personally and business wise and sports wise and activity wise, I think appreciation's key.
Well, I always said affection because he loves to snuggle. So I always figure
everyone loves to snuggle.
Not everyone. So I figure, the physical touch of affection.
Affection is definitely part of appreciation.
Okay. Well,
we're very happy, everyone.
Okay. Well, what about you, Amy? What's your A?
What do you think mine is?
I'm going to guess attention.
So I actually had a hard time kind of picking one, but I think attention is good. I'll go with attention.
Yeah.
But I can't really like speak to, I don't know. I guess like I do. Yes. Okay. So attention. Yes. Because I feel like for us to be more, I was discussing our podcast with a friend on my walk this morning, kind of things that we were going to talk about. And I did say that I am more likely to like be more intimate, and that if like we've had like like if we've connected with each other. So I think, yes, attention is I think you're right on the nose. Denise, what about you?
Well, I mean, since everyone got to like give their answer from their spouse, what would Chris say? My A.
I'm going to ask you to write it down before I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Make sure you've really. Yeah, there we go. All right. I am going to say,
Okay.
It's really close actually. But I think I'm going to go with attention as well, because I think that's what you thrive on, right? And that's kind of like, that's what you're asking for from me a lot. Maybe I'm not giving you enough. I don't know, but maybe there's just not enough to give is the thing, because you need more than I have. But yeah, I think it's attention.
Yeah, well, I think attention and adoration have like a similar meaning. So I chose adoration, but it's the same thing, like just feeling loved, right? I mean, and if you give it attention, to me is a lot of times love. Like, so, if we're sitting around the dinner table, let's all be engaged, have a conversation, right? Something I like to do, not as a couple necessarily, but sometimes as a couple, but even as families, like let's have like a topic at dinner, right? Like that we talk about, right? Like something we could go around the table. My kids get annoyed with it. Even sometimes my parents do, but I like to do it. It makes it interesting, right? So, and that's attention or adoration, as well. So
I don't know. I think attention and adoration are different. I do. Because I think attention is being actively engaged with the person a lot, right? And adoration is more like, I care for you, right?
Showing your words.
Adore you.
I love you all the time. Yeah.
Right?
no, I mean, yeah, if you look at it, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I get what you're saying though, for sure.
So that was my A. So yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? I mean, all 5 A's are important. All 5 A's are important according to the book, but we'll read it this month and see how it goes. So
yeah, but
you'll have to give us a little book report on it.
Yeah. But I think Amy and Mike have some dating go-tos, right? So I want to hear about them.
So I think, we always like to kind of give some tips as to, what we do in our relationship, to keep the magic. I wish that we had like a bit. I mean, we are recording this in video, but we're not necessarily sharing it. But I wish that we could like showcase like Mike's face as I say things. But I'm going to let him kind of say our first one is laughing, is always laughing.
Always laugh. Yeah, we always said that at the point, if we ever get to a point that we stop making each other laugh, there's a bigger problem in our relationship than a silly joke. So we try to not necessarily make light of a situation, but keep it lighthearted, even if sometimes life gets hard.
And it does.
That's true.
And life does get hard. And I will say that we're also a couple that doesn't really fight. So when we do fight, it is often really comical because it's more like a very intense, like bickering where like, I don't even know how to like explain it. It's just where it's more like me. Maybe it's the attention that I am seeking.
It might be, but we tend to be able to talk out a lot of our issues and be able to communicate, because that was one of the other things that we decided early on in our relationship, since both our families, our divorced families, is we decided that we will,
because our parents did not do this.
No, neither of our parents actually talked to each other. So we decided that we would communicate and talk things out and not let things fester and turn from a molehill to a mountain. And so we try to attack the situations right in the beginning before they get bad.
Right. And like little like annoying things. So Mike has we also have obviously spent a significant amount of time together over the past, 2.5 years. So little things that, in the past might not have been so annoying are more annoying now. And so he'll call attention to certain things and I'll call attention to certain things, but we talk through it and hopefully things get better. And then if they're still not better, then, hey, let's just, let's talk about, what's happening. But I think communication is super, super important. Do you guys feel like your communication that you're talking a lot to each other?
I'll let Denise answer that first. I think her answer is different than mine is the issue here, but go ahead.
No, we feel we need to, it's an important topic, right? We'll make the effort to have the conversation. It's not always easy sometimes. And this is something I'll talk about in our section that, we find alternative ways to communicate, right? Not only the traditional, in person, because sometimes that's when he's busy with work or I'm busy doing work or, with the kids, and we just don't have that quiet time to sometimes have the conversation. But we've found over the years some alternative ways to communicate. So we'll talk about those in a second. But
yeah. I think our last one is, Mike's love language, I would say, is there's a lot of he likes physical touch from that book. He may or may not disagree, but finding times to, cuddle or snuggle together. So in the morning, or I don't know if you remember, I laugh about this. A few years ago, there was some social media challenge or Instagram. I don't know. It was can you kiss your person for a minute? And so we tried that for a little bit. I'm oh, I saw this or I read this. And it was try to kiss your person for, instead of just a little peck or whatever, when you see them, actually try to have an embrace. And so we tried that, kissing for 1 minute. And let me tell you guys, 1 minute is a really long time, but it does start to spark some other, ooh, all right. We need to table this because you can't just, when you have kids, you can't just going at it in the kitchen. But
keep our PG rating, Amy and Mike on the podcast.
Making time to snuggle together, find time to kiss and touch, I think is obviously super important. So those are our three: is making communication, make each other laugh, and that physical touch piece to relationships. Yeah, those are good. Yeah. And everything's different for everybody, right? I think that's what we're trying to get today is some things work better for other couples and, some things work better for, for other people. So these are just ideas of some things we've been doing. So exactly.
For us, for Chris and I put the first thing was adult trips without our children. We annually go on vacation, just the two of us, usually somewhere tropical like Mexico or Hawaii. We've got the Greek islands are up next on our bucket list. And so fun. Yeah. And it's, we say that in a place of complete, privilege and because our parents have both been so generous with their time to babysit our children. But, even if it's a night somewhere, find a friend if you have children and try to, assign them to a one-nighter, on someone's house. That way. So yeah, any time to just change the channel, right? Like the Garth Brooks thing, that was less than 24 hours. We used to go to Vegas for just 24 hours. It was enough. That was enough for me. But yeah, that's something. So adult trips, date nights, pre-COVID, we did this way, way more. That's partly my fault. I just haven't had the gusto to go out with all of this stuff going out. But we used to try to have dinner and drinks at least once a month, just the two of us, sometimes another couple. But if we couldn't find another couple, that wouldn't stop us. We would just try to go ourselves. I think Chris is yearning for this more in 2022. So it's something I'm going to commit to doing more. Speaking of, since we're all here, Amy and Mike, do you remember when we went on a date night when we were neighbors? Chris, do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay, it was a snowy winter night. I'm going to set the scene. Snowy winter night. I was pregnant, so no wine for me. And it didn't seem like ideal weather for a date night, but we shared a babysitter because we really wanted to go out.
And we were neighbors, so we used your babysitter. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so convenient and nice. And we had a great dinner. And I think one memory I had is we drove around and looked at real estate because Mike and Amy are really into real estate. So.
Right. Was that the take a break,
Yes.
Do you remember that video they took?
No,
I don't. I really my memory is so horrible. So when Denise was like telling me this, I'm like, I don't like fully remember this, but Mike remembered going around and like looking at the real estate. Clearly I think that we were trying to get them to, stay longer. So we were trying to, entice them with all of the beautiful landscape that, Illinois has to offer.
Yeah, it was a fun night.
But the kids had a good time, and
it was a great night. And yeah, our kids at the time were super close. And yeah, and there's a famous video in our family. Anyway, I'll just send it to you. But it'll, Ella and Caleb were doing like a talent show, and then
Caleb's on the piano.
Yeah, and he was
Ella's on the mic, and Caleb is just playing up a storm. And Ella's like singing something crazy. And suddenly she goes, take a break, take a break, take a break. And I was like, what is she doing?
Yeah. And we still say that to this day. We're like, take a break, take a break.
Super funny.
We'll have to. They were probably, so how old were they? Like 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were so tiny.
So that's something we do. And then the other, just date nights. And, the last thing that we've done, and I, mentioned it a bit earlier, was, I think we try to meet the other mate where they are. So, we've used technology to communicate if one spouse is traveling or busy. Chris used to travel about 80 to 90% of his time. So that was especially challenging. So, apps like we've used recently this year, we tried out an app called Paired. That was actually Chris's idea, and he initiated it, where it's like a couples game. You compete in the online games, kind of like we did just now. Like he tried to guess what I was going to say. I tried to guess what he was going to say. And it's fun. And it's just about these innocuous topics a lot of times. It also gets a little more serious at other times, like things you
kind of weave it in.
Yeah. And it's just, it just opens the conversation and you communicate in a fun way and through an app. So it's gamified too, and you get points, and it gives you notifications and daily question. It's fun. So that's something we've done to kind of keep it fresh.
And I also find that communicating using, technology, at least for me, allows me to think through what I'm trying to say a little bit more carefully. Because sometimes when we're just talking, like I'll say something stupid that I regret. But when you're texting or emailing, you don't want to just do that when you're across the room, of course. But like, if there's a reason to do it, I think I get my points across a little bit, clearer.
I think everybody too, right, has a different way of communicating. Some people write better than they speak, or sometimes you need both in order to, to help support your case. Or topic, or just feelings. For sure. Well, it was so awesome to discuss our relationships and have our hubbies here to kind of shed light on midlife and being married. And regardless of whether you're married or not, these are tips that you can bring into, your relationship with your spouse, with the significant person in your life, friends, all of these, maybe not snuggling with your friends, but definitely taking trips and doing things like that, and meeting people where they are, and, and just that physical connection, I think is super important. So we hope that you found this episode insightful, and that you'll check us out in a couple of weeks for another fun and information filled episode. We are starting to have guests, as you heard from today. So in a couple of weeks, we've been kind of talking to a couple different people that we hope you'll find very interesting, and kind of expanding some of the breadth and depths of the topics that, Denise and I can, bring to the table. So definitely, Denise, do you have our links for our social media?
Yes. Yeah. We're all set up on Instagram now. So it's Midlife at the mailbox, all one word. And so we've got some presents there. We're going to be sending some things out. And just want to thank Chris and Mike. We have our first mates, quote unquote, that help run our ship. And they were no mistake that they're the first guests on our podcast, just because of how important they are in our lives. So thanks, guys. I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.